Hey guys, this is Stabs McKenzie, and the characters we're going to be looking at today are the human faction. So we're going to be taking a look at Freezard, Darien, Eric Shieldbreaker, Snorri, Robin Bad, Little Baddie, and Soleus. We're going to take a look at all these characters and we're going to be rating them on an A+ through an F scale. So keep in tune and keep an eye out. So the attributes we'll be looking at will be speed, health, shield, physical damage, magical damage, physical damage reduction, magical damage reduction, critical chance, critical damage, accuracy, dodge, potency, tenacity, penetration, and lifesteal. Those stats are going to pop up on the left hand side of your screen, and what you're going to see is you're going to see their level 80 stats. The reason why you're going to see level 80 is because that's the maximum level in the game. So we're going to show you where your investment will lead you. Alright, so let's get into our first faction review with the human faction. And we're going to start first with Freezard. So Freezard is an order, human, fighter, mage, and a dragon slayer. So as a mage, his role is to deal a lot of damage, and as an additional thing, he controls the battlefield. So he has multiple abilities that can reduce armor and slow down your opponents. Unfortunately, Freezard's crowd control comes at a cost, and his magic damage comes in at 1,980. And when you compare that to someone from the clan side, like Corcoran, who comes in with a magic damage rating of 3,238, I mean, he just deals less damage straight up. But again, he does an AoE mass reduction turn meter ability, and he can slow down your opponents, and in addition to that, he can cheat death. So what that means is the first time that he's dealt fatal damage or that he would die, he negates it, stays alive, and gives you the opportunity to keep fighting. Freezard is an amazing character to have early on, so that's why we're going to rate him with a C for offense, a B for defense, and a B for utility. Freezard might not have the damage output that some other mages have, but what he does have is he has an amazing ability to control the battlefield. He's going to be shredding armor, he's going to be reducing turn meter across the battlefield, and then when your opponents think they have Freezard down, he's going to stick around for another battle. So keep Freezard in mind because he's a great asset to have in your lineup. Darien is your absolutely average human tank. He's essentially C's across the board. So when you compare him to like a clan's tank, he has slightly less HP and shield, he has about the same damage, and he has slightly less damage reduction, but he makes up for that a little bit with his bonus potency and his bonus penetration. What I can say about Darien is that he's not a bad investment because he does apply a bonus armor buff to up to 3 allies, and he does have a leader ability that is generic. So if you get into a situation where you have characters for a raid that might not necessarily fit into a certain mold, you can use Darien as a leader to give them a little bonus defense, so in that way maybe you can churn out a little bit bonus DPS in your raid. The way we're going to rate Darien here is we're going to give him a D in offense, and the reason we give him a D in offense is he might have an AoE, and well, that's really it. I mean, that's all he has going for him offensively. And then we give him a B in defense because he is a tank and he does have an ability that does regenerate his HP, so that's good. He does have a taunt. I mean, that is essential to being a tank. So then we go to utility. And in utility, he can spread a defensive buff, and that's great, but I mean, that's one buff and that's all he can kind of do. So that's why we give him a C. So overall, Darien is a completely average character, and that's the way you should treat him. So don't invest too heavily in him, but don't be afraid to invest in him because he's essentially, you know, your Ryu or your Ken. We're reviewing Eric Shieldbreaker here, and he's one of my favorite characters because he just looks like a Viking. He has this cool lion on his chest. I just really love this character. And we're going to compare him here to Mar, who is a character who shares a role with him, which is, you know, that DPS gladiator role. So Eric and Mar both share very similar characteristics. In fact, their HP, speed, and damage are essentially the same. The only categories where they really differ is Eric has a bonus to defense and Mar has a bonus to defense penetration. So you can kind of consider them two sides of the same coin. So although Eric is very good at his job, which is dealing damage, that's really all he can do. In fact, all of his moves focus on that except for one of his abilities, which gives the abilities to gain debuff immunity and an armor increase, which is really great, but it doesn't carry this character, and unfortunately, as cool as he is, he doesn't really make it, and that's why we're going to give him a C in offense, a D in defense, and a C in utility. Snorri is a champion. Now we're comparing him to Hard Orc. Now Hard Orc is one of the legendary characters of the clans faction. So Snorri here, he is about the same damage and about the same defense as Hard Orc. Now Hard Orc has minor advantages in these categories, but Snorri has an AoE damage ability that can apply a bleed effect. Snorri is a great character because in addition to all of the things that he does, he also shares buffs with Freezehard. So Freezehard is going to give Snorri his cheat death ability, which means that the first time that Snorri suffers fatal damage, he's going to cheat death, and he's going to live for another round. In addition to that, Snorri is going to share his defensive buffs with Freezehard, so this duo is incredibly deadly. For all those reasons, we're going to give Snorri a B in offense, a B in defense, and a C in utility. We're going to give him a B in offense because he has an AoE bleed effect, and that's really very powerful. We're going to give him a B in defense because he has all of these defensive synergies with Freezehard. We're going to give him a C in utility because he can cheat death with Freezehard, and in addition to that, he also has some speed buffs that really give him an advantage. So Snorri is a great character for you to invest in at any point in the game. The next character that we're going to look at is Bad Robin. Now Bad Robin, he's unfortunately a subpar DPS dealer. Now you might not expect him to be a subpar DPS dealer because when you compare him to someone like Rantha, the comparable clans DPS type character, Rantha only has an advantage in speed. They both share about the same damage characteristic, and Robin Bad actually has an advantage in his defensive categories and his HP. But where we're going to see an advantage is in Rantha's abilities, because Rantha's abilities are much more powerful than Robin Bad's. So Robin Bad rates at a C in offense, a D in defense, and a C in utility. Robin Bad doesn't do anything particularly special. He merely does damage, and that he does fine in his role. But he doesn't have any defensive capabilities, and his utility is very limited. So for that reason, we give him these average marks. Little Baddie is an interesting character that I really have a hard time placing. She has some very strong defensive attributes with above average health and shield. In fact, her physical damage is also relatively high. In fact, her defensive capabilities are also relatively strong. Little Baddie is one of the characters who's most up in the air for me, so I'm really interested to see where she lands. So guys, give her a test. Let me know what you think about Little Baddie. I'd really love to hear what you think, so please post something in the comments about your experiences with Little Baddie, playing her on offense, or even experiencing this character on defense. I have very little experience with Little Baddie, but here's my thought. She's going to rate at a D in offense, a B in defense, and a B in utility. The reason why she's going to rate at a B in defense is because she has some really high attributes, and she can taunt, as well as some other things, as well as like regaining HP, things of that nature. Now her utility is because she can give buffs as well as inflict blind, and that's really important because she can also inflict blind on raid bosses. The last character we have to look at is Solus. Now Solus seems to dominate in really every category, especially versus his contemporaries, which is Martha. I mean, he has a bonus in HP, a bonus in defense, a bonus in damage, as well as a bonus in multiple categories, and Martha only seems to have a bonus in her penetration and lifesteal. Solus is going to rank very high because I believe he's one of the best leaders of the game. He gives you a 25% bonus to your physical and magic damage, as well as a 10% counterattack chance for each living human in your party. Solus is clearly meant to be a legendary character because he just gives insane buffs all across the board. He applies armor increase, tenacity increase, haste, damage increase. I mean, he can heal across the board. He deals an insane amount of damage. He has random people increasing their abilities. And, you know, he has this amazing synergy with Nithiel where, like, if she's on the battlefield, she can be summoned to help, summoned to assist. He is an A+ character. A character like Solus is going to be very hard to come across, so we're going to give him an A in offense, an A in defense, and an A in utility, just because I feel like he really does kind of everything. But when you come across a character like Solus, you need to keep in mind something like legendary events or epic type of events where you're going to need characters to do certain types of events that will be very difficult. So you're going to need to have characters at certain star levels, at certain gear levels, so that way you can attain these very powerful characters. I am shooting in the dark as much as you guys are, so with a leader like Solus, I mean, the sky's the limit with the human faction. I mean, you can do anything. I mean, they're going to be able to do well in Arena. They're going to be able to do well in our Dragon Raid. What can't they do well in? I don't see a problem with them. So the human faction, I think, is going to be a great barometer for the future of the channel. We're going to be looking at all the other factions, and we're going to be using our humans as a C across the board. So I don't know how they actually rate against everything, but we're going to use our human faction as our C rating. So they're going to be our median. They're going to be our average characters. So we're going to rate everything against the human faction. So we're going to have an orc video coming up next. I hope you guys enjoy that. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you guys so much, and see you later. Stay frosty.